I don't know.
සුබ උදෑසනක් වේවා හැම දෙනාටම සුබ වෙසක් මංගල්‍යයක් වේවා. Good morning everybody and wish you all happy Vesak. So 8:30 to 9:30 we conduct a meditation. It is a guided meditation. In the morning session we will practice samatha meditation, or which is known as tranquility meditation. We will train our mind to focus for a particular mental object and try to remain on that particular object for a longer period of time. It's like making focusing the flashlight. Our mind is scattered with the various disturbances or the mental objects or the objects that which are coming through the senses. We have a very scattered mind in general. So what we do here, we just dropped and let go the additional thoughts and additional uh, sensual objects and bring our attention to one particular mentality, one particular mental object. In this meditation, it is actually a kind of very subtle and 8 stages there you have in this meditation. So it is at the beginning it won't be an easy task, but I try my best to convey the message and the guidance for you to have a very successful meditation. You all know, if you have connected with the meditation sessions on the Wednesdays, and these days actually every morning we do, it is in Sinhalese, but roughly you all know that we most of the time we practice loving kindness meditation to practice tranquility meditation or the samatha meditation. In the afternoon session, we are going to practice vipassana meditation. And so to practice vipassana meditation, we will find another object. You know that breathing meditation is the very suitable and very easy object for the insight meditation, vipassana bhavana. And also in between the discussions times and the time that you are spending with other monks will help you to clarify the samatha and vipassana in details in the given time. But right now, we will try our best to understand and practice samatha meditation. In samatha meditation, we, as I mentioned, we train our mind to focus for one particular object. Though we practice loving kindness right here, right now, in general, after you train your mind, after you know that what we are doing in this session, it will be easy for you to understand whatever the objects that you are selecting to your mind. You can spread your awareness, spread your attention on that particular object, and you can uh, it's like abiding, living, residing on that particular object. This is what we do. So in that process, we have uh, two different actually main stages. The first set of stages called Rupavachara Dhyana, the material absorptions. And also in the second part, it is called Arupavachara Dhyana or Samapatti. Those are called fine material absorptions. So what we do here, we bring our attention and train our attention and focus our attention to the first absorption of the first section, first segment of the samatha meditation, or the material absorption. In the first absorption, what we have, the main mentality, main mental properties are the vitakka, vichara, piti, sukha, and ekaggata. Vitaka vichara means the you uh, uh, you find an object. That is the vitak. You find a subject. It's like you find uh, uh, the flower bud with the stem. Then vichar means you bring some applied thoughts into that. You apply some thoughts into that. That means the flower bud become start to open. So once you open the flower bud, you are able to see the many different uh, stuffs inside the flower, petals, and also the pollens in the middle, and various colors, and also fragrance. And if you are very closely able to taste the content of the flower, actually you have nectar inside in the middle of the flower. That's what we do in the first absorption. We find object and start to think about the object. That is called vitaka vichara, applied thought, sustained thought. And also, if you are able to really close to the object that you have selected, then you can feel some sort of happiness and pleasure. That because it has lots of good feelings with thinking of the one particular pleasant object. You have good feelings. It's like finding a good friend. Once you have a good friend, what do you feel? You feel, oh, I have someone, and I want to talk to him or her, and I want to share my experiences. Not only that, I share myself with my friend. That is how friendship becomes really flourished and very successful. Same way, in this meditation, what we do, we uh, uh, become really close to this mental object. For example, when we practice loving kindness meditation, loving kindness is the bud, the flower bud. And with the support of our vichara or applied thought, we start to open the bud and see the details of the flower. And of course, once a flower open, you know that it has a natural beauty. What we do, we enjoy the natural beauty. We bring sort of happy, full experiences, pleasant feelings with the content of the flower. So, rapture, pleasure. Once you have these sort of thoughts in your mind, you will be feeling that I don't want to leave this mental property, that because it is very pleasant and attractive. I have a willingness to stay there, like finding a friend. If you have found a very good friend, then you feel, okay, I want to live with my friend. I don't want to leave. I want to stay with the friend. I have a close connection with the friend. So then what happened? You have a kind of, it is called one pointedness, ekaggata. You bring your full attention to the object and you dwell on the object. This is the first absorption. I'm always encouraging you to attain the first absorption. Of course, it is not easy because uh, our mind has trained ourselves to engage with something. Always we train our mind to engage with something. We have lots of engagement, by reading, by watching news, or watching dramas or movies, or reading novels, or whatever the interest you have. We have a habit to bring some mm, uh, uh, objects, some thoughts into our mind. That is the way that we have trained. But what we do here, of course, we do the same thing at the beginning. If you notice, but we bring one particular friendly object, and we spread out our awareness on that particular friendly object, and then we try our best to remain in that. But by reading a book, of course, you have that same kind of feelings. But if you notice that when you read a novel, there you have a villain, there you have various casts. So what happened to our mind? We feel sorrow, we feel happy, we feel various types of thoughts coming to our mind. But in meditation, in tranquility meditation, you don't have various types of all the mixed thoughts in your mind. We have some sort of related thoughts in your mind. For example, if when you practice loving kindness, the loving kindness meditation, you notice that all the thoughts are related to the loving kindness. Finally, you will notice, oh, what's the point of thinking about all sort of qualities? That is how you slowly try to fade away, very gently. You let them go, all the ongoing thoughts in your mind, and you bring your attention into the pleasure and rapture, instead of thinking about all sort of things. So you will notice that how much deep and how much important this kind of exercise for our mind, uh, by practicing the meditation. Otherwise, as I mentioned, that we have trained our mind to obsess for something, not only that something, various things. We always try to clog our mind with all the objects, all the things, all the knowledge. That is how we train. In here, we simplify our mind, and focus to one object, and remain in peaceful. uh, Ultimate goal of this meditation also to reach to the nibbana through the vipassana, because in each and every absorption, you are able to later on, not now, because we are at the we practice here as beginners. But when you go through thoroughly in depth of this understanding of the absorption, also guide you to practice vipassana through the samatha vipassana. And because undisturbed awareness is very important in practicing vipassana. Undisturbed awareness, usually we have a disturbed awareness. Undisturbed awareness. So, to gain some sort of skill to maintain undisturbed awareness, we have to have kind of training. So, in this morning session, we will practice loving kindness meditation as our meditation object. And but the ultimate goal of this meditation is to tranquilize the mind, simplify the mind, and stay in the calm in the mind, and make ourselves to become friendly to our mind, and become friendly to our selected object. And in ongoing development in our meditation, you are able to really transform your mind from one stage to the other, and ultimate goal again is the nibbana. So nibbana means the sunyata, emptiness. uh, we just uh, drop down all sort of botherings, hamperings, disturbances. We just drop down and let them go and stay, abide in a peaceful life, like pleasant and practical uh, mm, peace in mind. Peace in mind. So we will seek the peace in mind in the morning session through the samatha, in the afternoon session through the vipassana. Okay, dear spiritual friends, now we can start our meditation. This is a guided meditation. What you have to do, just focus your attention to the voice of Bhante Punna, and try to go with the voice. This voice actually not belongs to Bhante Punna. I convert this voice completely to the guidance, and this guidance completely, even myself use this guidance in this meditation, in this period of time. I use this guidance as my guidance also. I encourage you, try to completely focus your attention uh, to the voice, and I uh, always keep my full awareness to uh, line up the words into the one particular direction, and you will be able to focus your attention to the uh, first absorption. I wish you to enjoy a deep meditative experience. That because I know that you have been doing many long time in your meditation practice. We have lots of good understanding in between us, so we can use that understanding, that appreciation, as noble friends, spiritual friends, kalyana mitra. We can just end line into one particular direction, and we will try to enjoy a deeper state of peace in our mind. Spiritual friends, again and again, I insist, enline and line up with the guidance, and deeply dive into the depth of the mind, and remain in the deepest state of our mind. Okay, here onwards, I'm going to start the guided meditation. First, you can gently close your eyes and check your posture. For the benefit of you, I'm doing it here, but also you can do the same training physically and mentally, bringing awareness into your body, into your mind. Gently close your eyes. And listen the bell. The sound of the bell will be the sound that we use to awake ourselves. Just listen to the end of the sound. Sabbha papansa akaranang kusalansa upasampada Sacitta pariyo dapanang etang buddhana sasanang. Avoid evil deeds, bad karma. Associate wholesome deed, wholesome actions, mentally, verbally, and physically. Purify one's own mind. This is the teachings of the Buddha. Dear spiritual friends, we will bring our full awareness to our body. And observe the body. You are in a sitting posture. You are sitting on the floor, on the cushion, sitting on the chair. You are keeping your eyes gently closed. You maintain your upper body upright as much as possible. You are resting your palms on your lap, on your thighs. You are placing your both legs nicely and maintain the proper posture. While we are guiding to up to a certain level, until we relax our body and mind, you can take a deep breath and exhale and relax. This relaxation will really help you to remain in the motionless posture. Because in the first part of our meditation, our main goal is to shut down the body. Because the body is awakened and all the muscles of the body wants to move here and there. Even in the cellular level, they have waken up and they want to move. But in meditation, we have to move the body into a deep sleep. Otherwise, you are not really enjoying the deepest state of your meditation. Bring your attention to your body and feel your body. Scan your body from the top of the head to the tips of the toes. Feel. Take a long, deep breath. And exhale and relax. Feel each and every parts of the body and purposely drop down any pressure, any tension, any heavy feelings, and bring the body into a very peaceful state, into a very relaxed mode. We will draw attention to our forehead and head, the back of the head. If you notice any heavy feelings on your forehead, feel them and relax, relax, relax. Feel your eyes inside and outside and relax. And bring your awareness to your facial muscles to make to comfortable facial muscles. We invite a gentle, genuine smile, like looking at a baby, and you have a very genuine, beautiful smile on your face. The gentle smile can relax your facial muscles and the entire body. Relax your jaws and jaw muscles. Feel your both shoulders, upper arms, lower arms, palms, and fingers, and just drop them down and relax. Even feel the finger muscles and relax them. You are not maintaining any grabbing, grasping sensation on the fingertips. Fingers are relaxing. Just relax. Feel your chest muscles and thigh muscles and relax. Relax, relax, and relax. Feel your upper back muscle and lower back muscles. If you notice any pain on your lower back muscles, to relax the back muscles, you can find the posture by moving very gently, and you can feel the weight of the body is flowing down through the backbones, not the weight is coming to the lower back muscles. Just relax. Sitting posture is very gentle. At the front edge of the cushion, you are keeping your buttock and relax. No any nerve pressure is going on. Nerve pressures will direct the numbness of the legs. So keep your awareness on the ongoing pressure which is on there, and very gently move and relax. Relax your both legs to the tips of the toes. Relax. Be aware of the entire body and relax, relax, relax. Now slowly draw your attention to your mind, letting body to be in this posture, be in this relaxed posture. You draw your attention to your mind and observe in your mind there might be unnecessary tensions, pressures, stresses in the mind. If you notice any stressful thoughts in your mind, observe them and notice them and understand the real nature of the mind. In our mind, we have thoughts. Some thoughts are related to the past memories, experiences. Some are for the future expectations, hopes, and anticipations. And notice past memories mean that they have gone. If they have already gone, then what is the purpose of being worried on them? And just let them go. But remember to preserve the good lessons that you learned from the past, which will help you to avoid the mistakes in the future and make yourself better. So just let go the past memories, accept the good lessons you learn. Future also the same. Good goals for the future is good, but any of those are disturbing and ruining the peace in the mind right now. Understand the future is not yet come true and let them go. By letting go the past and the future, you are able to bring your full awareness to the present moment. Right now, you are right on your body. Your body in a very good, very wholesome posture. You have a mindful, relaxed body. You have prepared this body with a great preparation and dedication, with the wholesome guidance from your teachings of the Buddha. That is why your awareness at the present moment is ready to abide in the present moment. You are here. You are right here. You are in yourself. Observe your present awareness and notice by bringing the awareness to the present moment that you have reached to a very peaceful state of mind by letting go the past, by letting go the future, by bringing your awareness to the present moment. You have purified your mind. You have a purified mind. No any hindrances in your mind. No any mental disturbances in your mind. You have a very beautiful, pure mind. Observe your luminous, colorful, bright, beautiful mind. Observe the beauty of your mind, the lucidity of your mind. No any bad shapes, bad thoughts in your mind. You have a very pleasant and clear awareness right now. That is how you are practicing Sabbapapa. You have gone beyond all the unwholesomeness. You have reached to a very peaceful state of mind right now. Observe the purity of your mind, the clarity of your mind, the lucidity of your mind. We will spread loving kindness into our clear mind. Bring the loving kindness into our mind. To cultivate the wholesomeness in our mind, we need some sort of wholesome object. Loving kindness is our wholesome object. To practice loving kindness, we bring a loving kindness visualization. A lovely mother who takes care of her only baby. You know what sort of thoughts mother is having. In mother's mind, she is having compassion, tolerance, patience, appreciations and generosity and so forth. Beautiful loving kindness thoughts. Same as a mother who takes care of her only baby. We will nurture, we will nourish, we will grow loving kindness in our mind, cultivating the good thoughts in our mind. Once you plant the loving kindness in your mind, you are able to see the, all the good thoughts surrounded compassion, tolerance, patience, appreciation, forgiveness, generosity, and many more beautiful loving kindness thoughts are growing in your mind. That because your mind becomes loving kindness. Loving kindness mind is always very helpful for your day-to-day life. Loving kindness is very necessary. Practice loving kindness. Cultivate loving kindness. Spread the loving kindness throughout the body. By appreciating one's own body without craving and without ignorance, with the compassion and the wisdom, you deeply appreciate your body and spread the loving kindness. From the skin to the internal organs, you deeply appreciate this body. This body is a gift given by mom and dad. Deeply admire and radiate loving kindness. The skin, the muscles, the bones of this body be healed, be healed. All the internal systems, the respiratory system, cardiovascular system, digestive system, genitourinary system, the central nervous system. All those systems are working together to uplift a good personality, healthy fast personality. May this entire body be healed. May this mind be well, be healthy. May this body be healthy, be healed. Feel the loving kindness mentally and physically. Remain in loving kindness. Enjoy the loving kindness. And share loving kindness with your spiritual friends. May my spiritual friends who practice loving kindness right here, may you be well. May you be able to grow in your spirituality. May you be well. Expand your loving kindness with your immediate family members, relatives and friends near and far. May they be well. May they be happy. May they be peaceful. Expand your loving kindness awareness further and further to all the human beings, people in your neighborhood, in the neighboring neighborhoods, neighboring counties, neighboring state, throughout the nation, neighboring countries, all around the world. This valuable human species be healed. May no dangers come to you. May no any sicknesses come to you. May this great human species be healed. May no any negative mentalities come to you. May you be healthy in mentally. May you be healthy in physically. May you be well. May you be happy. May you be peaceful. Radiate your loving kindness to all beings in the direction of your front, in the direction of your left, right, above and below and back. May all beings, visible and invisible, seen and unseen, near and far, long and short, big and small, may all beings be well. Even spread your loving kindness to the natural beauty of the world, all the trees, plants, winds, the sunlight, moon, the minerals, this entire planet and the organisms be healed. The sun, moon, the planet, and all the natural components. They all are helping me, you to uplift yourself healthy and peaceful. Be grateful and radiate loving kindness. May you be well. May they be well. May I be well, be well, be well. Remain in gentle, silent, loving kindness meditation without shifting into any other objects. Try to remain in the loving kindness. Have a wide chat with the loving kindness. Have a beautiful loving kindness thoughts for a couple of minutes. Remain in the first absorption. Focus your attention to the first absorption. Applied thought, sustained thought, rapture, pleasure, and one pointedness onto the loving kindness. Remain in loving kindness. Loving kindness is gentle. Loving kindness is peaceful. Loving kindness is a wholesome thought. Be well. Be well. Sabbitiyo vivajjanto Sabbarogo vinansato Mate bhavantvantarayo Sukhi diga yuko bhava. May no fear come to you. May no any sicknesses come to you. May you be free from all the dangers. May you live long. Be well. මේක ඔෆ් කරන්න. තෙරුවන් සරණයි.
Teruvan Saranai. Welcome everyone for the next item in our program. First of all, I would like to welcome our devotees from Chicago Buddhist Vihara. So not only our devotees from the Buddhist Pittsburgh Buddhist Center for this talk, the devotees and friends from Chicago Buddhist Vihara are also joining. So welcome all of them. So this will be the Dhamma talk today, and afterwards we will have a discussion session. For this Dhamma talk, I decided to focus on an important Buddhist concept, what we call panya or prajna, or simply in English we call it wisdom. Because the enlightenment of the Buddha is related to a rising of what we call panya or wisdom. So it's a very important day that we become familiar with this of this panya, this wisdom. What does it really mean? So the term Buddha also had that had that meaning of panya. So as we know, the Buddha is not the name of the Buddha, and Buddha is the state that Buddha achieved. So that is the name actually that we often use to refer to the Buddha. And Buddha himself has told when he was asked who he was, his answer was he is the Buddha. There's a special meaning to this term. As you know, that term Buddha is actually coming from a verb called bodheti. That is bodheti means to realize, to awaken. So the term Buddha is the past participle of that verb to awaken, to realize. So that shows that Buddha has kind of realized and come out from a delusion that all sentient living beings are under, usually living under it. And that is why the Buddha gave us a very important simile or symbol of lotus. When Buddha was asked, who he was, are you a human being? Are you a divine being? Are you what kind of a person? What kind of being are you? Buddha said that I cannot be categorized into any existing categories of beings. You cannot categorize me as a deva, as a divine being. You cannot categorize me as a Gandharva. You cannot categorize me as a yakka. You cannot categorize me even as a normal, ordinary human being. That was the answer of the Buddha. We find in the sutta called Dona Sutta, when that Brahmin Dona asked from the Buddha, "Who are you?" And then Buddha said that in that case, I appeared to this world as a human being, and I'm still in the human form, but my mind has achieved a transcendence. My mind has transcended all limitations, all defilements, and has gone beyond the common ignorance of all living beings. Therefore, the way you can identify me as the Buddha. And then there Buddha gave a very important simile of a lotus. I think the lotus symbol is very important symbol that we can understand that nature of the Buddha, and also for us to understand the kind of journey we have to make in our spiritual practice. I think many of you, for our Pittsburgh devotees, I think some of them might have received a lotus flower. We send out lotus flowers. I hope that you put your lotus flower together, because we also send you instructions how to put that lotus flower. And it's a very important simile. I think I have my lotus flower. I can show you. Of course, we have seen our lotus flowers quite often. But in that sutta, in that discourse that Buddha gave to Dona, Buddha said that um, just like a lotus, which is rooted in the mud and also fed by the water, but still that lotus can rise above the water and the mud and can shine without being defiled by anything underneath. The kind of the state that Buddha achieved in his spiritual development is just like that lotus. Uh, and any living being has their own unique weaknesses, and we attach to different realms. We attach to different ways of beings based on our inclinations, our defilements, our ignorance. But the Buddha has transcended all these tendencies to attach to any forms of any ways of being, and he has transcended all defilements, and he has penetrated through the basic ignorance that all living beings have, and therefore he was born as a human being definitely to human parents, but once he achieved the enlightenment or awakening, and he is no more a human being in a literal sense. He has his mind has gone beyond any categorization. Even he was not even the other form of being. You cannot really put the Buddha in the box. There are no categories of beings to put the mind of the Buddha. There are no categories of being to put the mind of even any enlightened person. So they have kind of gone beyond, transcended in a whole different possible ways of uh, life forms. So that is why the Buddha used the term, used the symbol of lotus to show uh, that although he is in human form, and his mind has gone much beyond than that. So just like the lotus is unsmeared or undefiled by the water and the mud, and shining above, an enlightened mind is like that. So the what makes the what made the Buddha, let's say a lotus, is the great wisdom that Buddha generated. And the advice of the Buddha for all of us also to follow that example, and also follow the techniques given by the Buddha, also to rise above, not like stay underneath the water, but rise above. You can still be rooted, and but rise above and then shine. And we need to understand that the water and the mud are helpful. They are the sources. So some want to become a lotus. So whatever the mud, whatever the water, the muddy water, are the nutriments for the lotus. So whatever challenges, whatever suffering, whatever problems that we are going through, are the very resources, very conditions that we can use to understand the deeper reality, and then gradually overcome them and evolve beyond them. So all our challenges, all our problems, all our conflicts in our lives are actually part and parcel of this whole process. We should be able to transform those things. We should be able to use whatever challenges, problems, and conflicts that we are going through in our life. Even simple arguments we are having with our, let's say, family members, or maybe with our co-workers, and simple conflicts happening in our heart. All these things are like pointing us to the aspects that we need to pay attention to. What really makes this uncomfortable to me. What really makes this conversation difficult for me, and use that moment as a self-reflection, and reflecting, what could have been done differently, what could have been said differently, and what is the mental, what is the imagination that I'm doing in this case. How did I interpret these words and situations. So use those situations as a moment of reflection, moment of investigation, can make all these difficult moments, difficult, challenging moments, suffering moments into nutriments that can help us to move beyond and open up our wisdom, open up our wisdom. So that is the real meaning of the lotus. So today let us talk about what kind of wisdom that uh, Buddha had. Um, I think we need to understand that all our problems and conflicts and challenges are coming to us based on a basic misunderstanding. Because of the lack of panya, let's say, lack of wisdom, there's a basic misunderstanding that all living beings share. So this misunderstanding has two aspects to it. We are functioning, all living beings functioning under a basic misunderstanding. Of course, you may think that this is really a bad situation, but that's normal. That is how all living beings are functioning under basic misunderstanding. And there are two aspects to this misunderstanding. One is there's a inherent blindness. There's a blindness to the very process of our life. We don't see actually how we experience the world. There's an element of blindness. We call it avijja in Pali. Avijja. Sometimes we translate it as ignorance. So that is one aspect to this misunderstanding, avijja, like blindness to the very process of how we experience the world. We simply we simply encounter the world, but we are not aware of this very process, how we experience the world. This very process of sensory process. We are blind to the sensory process of how we experience the world. We simply focus on what is out there, but not to the very process of how we experience anything, how we see anything, how we hear anything, how we taste anything, how this whole the sensory process is happening. We are blind to that process. So we call it avijja, or blindness or ignorance. The other aspect to this misunderstanding is called confusion. In Pali we call it moha. The moha is a confusion. Moha is not lack of knowledge actually, but knowing things wrongly. So it's more like confused state of knowing. That we know things, but we know wrongly. So there's element of blindness, and there's also element of confusion, which means avijja and moha. And this is the fundamental level that many ordinary living beings are functioning. And so the panya, or the wisdom that the Buddha has encouraged us to develop, is actually going beyond this blindness, clearing out this blindness. It is like we have a blur view of the world, very blur. We don't really see what is happening over there, very blur. But when you have a, a, pair of glasses, you begin to see things clearly. So in that way, like clearing our vision. So the wisdom is actually not simply gathering more information, but actually wisdom is actually clearing the vision, and clearing the confusion. So there's an important aspect there, like of to the wisdom. But let me tell you about the important story from the life of the Buddha. Actually, not the life of the Buddha, but life of the Bodhisattva. Of course, the Buddha became the Buddha because of his long journey of perfecting and developing different skill sets that he needed to be a great teacher. So in his previous lives, he had been developing different skills that he needed to really teach others. So there are many stories of his previous lives, and there's one story I think quite popular in Buddhist communities. It's called Jataka stories, and one important Jataka that is related to wisdom is called Mahoshada Jataka. And this Jataka is such an interesting Jataka story. I think I encourage you to read that, if you even later. There are, in this particular life, the Bodhisattva, the Buddha to be, was a counselor, was an advisor to a king. And in his so as advisor to king, he is confronted with so many questions, so many problems, so many conundrums, so many issues. And the way the Bodhisattva, the Buddha to be handle these situations, show us, the how a wise person can act, and how actually what is the wisdom, how the wisdom is different from other ways of knowing. I will just tell you one incident. There are so many incidents that are recorded in the Jatika story, but I will tell you one incident to understand the the difference. I mean, what the wisdom means. How it different from other ways of knowing. So, again, this incident, um, let's say Mahoshada, that's the name of the Bodhisattva, in that life. So the royal advisor, the Mahoshada, was serving to a king, and this one day, early in the morning, someone noticed a gem, a shining gem, in the pond, where the king usually take his bath. So early in the morning, very shining gem. So they reported to the king, and king came out and saw the shining gem in the pond. He was so happy. There's a gem over there. So he asked um, um, uh, the person who's take care of the pond to go and take the gem. So he can swim. So he simply dived into the pond, and want to take the gem. So king was waiting for him to bring the gem to him. He came out and said that there's no gem over there. I went all the way down, but there's no gem over there. But king didn't believe him. And after a while, they stay for a while. When the water is settled, they can see the gem again. So he was asking the person, okay, go back and take my gem. So again he dived in and looked for the gem all over in the bottom of the pond, and came out saying there's no gem over there. And now the king was so frustrated. And he decided to take all the water out from the pond. So he ordered to empty the pond. So all the servants had to release the water. So everyone released the water, and because king wanted to really see the pond at the bottom of the king wanted to see the gem at the bottom of the pond. So they released the water, and then, to surprise, king didn't see any gem under the bottom of the pond. And even he suspected that some of these servants might have stolen this. So he asked again. He asked people to again put the water back. So they again filled the pond. The whole morning was such a mess in the court, in the royal palace on that day. So they put the water back. After they put the water back, again they can see the gem. This was a confusion. So without being able to find the gem, the king decided to consult his royal advisor, who is Mahoshada, the Bodhisattva. So he sent the messengers inviting Bodhisattva to come, his advisor, to help him to solve this problem, to find his gem. The Bodhisattva came, and he was simply sitting down and observing very silently what is happening here. The king explained what he did. So the Bodhisattva Mahosada was able to see the shining gem, very beautiful shining gem in the pond. After being very silent and silently observing, very skillfully observing the situation, the Bodhisattva Mahoshada asked the king, "Your Majesty, please send one of your servants to this tree, which is next to the pond. The gem is not in the pond, but in a bird nest of this tree, which is just next to the pond." Actually, what the king and other people has been seeing is not really the gem in the pond actually, but the reflection of a gem. The real gem is not in the pond, but in the nearby tree. Actually, in the nest, the bird nest of a nearby tree. The birds, somehow this bird has found this gem, has brought this gem into the nest. So when they place the gem in the nest of the tree, which is next to the pond, so that reflection of the gem can appear in the water. So the Mahasada, the Bodhisattva Mahasada, was able to see what we see in the water is simply a reflection. The real gem is not in the water. Real gem is under this. Real gem is on this tree. So of course, following the advice of Bodhisattva Mahasada, the king sent another servant. He climbed the tree and actually found the gem in the nest of the bird, the bird nest. So this, of course, there are many things happen. So this is one episode of that Jataka story. But there's a very interesting lesson for us to learn here. So most of the time we are fooled by the reflection of the thing, not the real thing. So we are looking the gem in the wrong place, not the real where the gem can be found. Don't we think that in our life, we look for happiness in wrong things, just like the king is trying to find the gem in the water, while the gem, the actual place of the gem is somewhere else. And but by simply not being fooled by this reflection, by simply being calm and being observant, being skillfully investigating the situation, the Bodhisattva Mahasada was able to find the actual gem. So this idea that there's a reflection and there's the real thing, reflection and the real thing. Most of the time we are fooled by the reflection and we cannot find the real thing. And wisdom is about not being fooled by the reflection and not really but being observant, being silent within inside, and try to really make sense of the situation, simply observing everything very carefully. And that is the wisdom. And when we apply this simile to our own life experiences, the basic idea of blindness that I talk about, avidya, and then moha, the confusion, is related to how we experience the world. Actually, how we experience the world is also mostly a reflection. But we don't really see it in that way, because whatever we see, whatever we hear, whatever we taste, and even whatever we touch, we think that those things that we see, hear, and experience exist in the same way that we experience them. And that is the basic blindness. Just like believing that there's a gem in the pond. Because how we experience the world, how we see things, how we hear things are not simply that there's the objectively things are appearing in us. Because whenever we hear, see, or experience anything from our sensory organs, we actually select things. There are two things happening. Whenever you hear things, whenever you see things, whenever you taste, or whenever you experience whatever things, we don't simply experience what is out there. There are two things we are doing without our knowing. This is the blindness. One thing we do is that we select. There's a process of selection going on. Right now, you may hear so many sounds. Whenever we hear, we actually select which sound to listen. Of course, right now you are listening to, hopefully, to the sound that coming from the computer. But there are many other sounds that is happening. So our hearing is not simply objectively experience the world. No. Our hearing is a selective act. We select among many sounds, what to hear. Of course, if there are prominent sound, we have no choice, we pay attention to that. But most cases, how we hear things, how we experience the world, there's a process of selection. Even when you see things, when you open your eyes, we usually think that when I open my eyes and whatever out there appears in front of me, which is not. There's a process of selection, actually. There are so many things you can see when you open your eyes, but we keep changing that selection. Same way, even experience that is coming to us from our nose, from our tongue, from our a tactile sensation, anything. There's a process of selection. So we don't really experience the world as it is. We experience the world as we select it from the large number of sensory data. But it's not only selection that's happening. There's also another process happening, which is very, very deep. We can call it projection. It's not only selection, there's a projection happening there, which means that whenever we see, hear, smell, or whatever experience, we not only simply take them as raw data, but actually project our own categories, our own previous concepts to things that we see, hear, and experience. And so it's not simply objectively taking the data inward. We have certain concepts that we have formed, images we have formed previously. And it's very difficult for us to experience a new thing because we don't allow any new things to occur to us. Whenever we have a new sensory data, we quickly project whatever categories we have within us to make sense of these new things coming. So therefore, there's a selection happening, there's a projection happening. And because of that process of selection and projection, we don't really see the actual, let's say we don't really see what is coming to our senses. So in a way, actually, how we experience the world is a way of reflection. It's a reflection. It's not really the true thing. This is a deep thing actually happening in a very unconscious level. That is why the Buddha called this avijja. Of course, it's very difficult for us to experience anything without having any mental image of it. So we have mental images, we can call it, nama, we can call it, sanya. There are so many mental images in different levels, different categories of images we have. And so we project those things to what we experience. So as a result, just like in that story, we see the reflection of the gem and not the real gem. So our experience of the world, we experience a world which is actually reflection of our own mental images that we are projecting. A reflection of our selection process that we do with our sensory organs. But the other funny thing happening to all living beings is that because we don't see that there's a projection here, there's a process of selection happening here, because we don't see it, and then we start to believe that whatever we see or hear and whatever we experience are existing in the same way that we experience them. So then there are two things happening here. We tend to believe that there's exactly the same world out there that I experience. There's exactly the same world out there as I experience it. And then because we create a reality, like more, not only there's a world as we experience out there, but we also think that that world is fixed. So not only we without, because we don't see this process of selection and projection, we imagine that there's a world out there as we experience it. I'm not saying that there's nothing outside. There are so many processes, basically the four great elements, so many things happening outside. But how we experience the world is through our sensory organs, through our process of selection and projection. But we think that what out there is the same as how we perceive it. So we tend to believe that what we perceive is what really exists outside outside of us. And we create a fixed reality, thinking that the world exists as I perceive it. The world exists as I perceive it, and that world is fixed. And then, because of that, there's also internal fixation, which is we also project an experience of this world, which is also fixed. So, because of this sensory the blindness to this sensory process, we create these two different worlds, which are fixed world, the fixed external world and fixed internal world. You can call it I, experience, or whatever. And that is not wisdom. Actually, that is not panya. But this is what vast majority of living beings are doing, because we are under this blindness. And this is not something that normal human being or any living being can find out. That actually we have to have a Buddha to come and teach us. This is what is happening within us. So that is why we are so fortunate to have these teachings of the Buddha, to live in a period, where the teachings of the Buddha is available, because this blindness is common to all living beings. And we all living beings are functioning under this blindness. Actually, when you think about this, we are all like trapped. We are all like trapped in this basic blindness. We are all trapped in this basic matrix, if you want to call it. And so only a Buddha, someone like the Buddha, can actually find out. It feel like it's almost impossible for any living being living under this blindness, living under this basic blindness, to realize this, the whole fact. It is like, we all live under this shell of egg. We are all under the egg. We don't think that there's a world outside of the egg. We think that all the whatever, we never question our sensory process. We never question our sensory process. We simply think that whatever I see, hear, smell, whatever the way I experience the world exists as I experience it. So we question our sensory process. But what the Buddha did was actually, he started to question the very sensory process. He started to analyze how I come to know the world. What is the process happening here? How I experience the world? And that by analyzing this very process, he discovered this basic blindness that everybody is having, what we call avidya, not knowing how we experience the world, how we construct our experience of the world, not knowing that our experience of the world is a reflection of our own categories and a result of our own selection. At least to know that, at least to be aware that how I experience the world is a reflection, is already liberating. But imagine that how living beings all are living under this blindness. How someone living under that shell of ignorance can somehow realize this reality? Is almost impossible. That is why the appearance of the Buddhas are so rare in the world. It's so rare, definitely. In fact, actually, the Buddha explained himself as someone who actually hatched an egg. Buddha said that all living beings are living in this shell of ignorance, all living beings are under this shell of ignorance, like under this egg. I am someone who has somehow inside the egg has hatched the egg, and somehow was able to come out from this shell. There's an interesting sutta, uh, as a person who has hatched the egg. Let me read that. Let me read it for you. Buddha said that, suppose there was a hen with 8, 10, or 12 eggs that she has properly covered, incubated, nurtured, nurtured. Should the first among those chicks to pierce its shell with points of its claws and beak, and safely hatch the egg, hatch be called the eldest or the youngest, and enveloped with the shell of ignorance, I pierced it. So that's what we call the wisdom. So I need you to understand the difference between ignorance and um, there's an important difference between uh, simple knowing and wisdom. Let's put it like knowledge and wisdom. Um, because in order for us to really have this deeper understanding, the ordinary way that we get to know things that not helpful. So there's an important difference between the ordinary way of knowing, we can call it knowledge, and then contemplative way of knowing, more observe or like more inner observation, knowing through inner observation, what we call panya. And that's more like a penetrative knowledge, penetrative realization. The ordinary way that we know about the world, ordinary way that we collect information about the world, is simply like gathering information, they are gathering facts. But the kind of knowing and Buddha is asking us to do, simply gathering knowledge actually. Yeah, it is more like experiential realization. So we need to understand that, the ordinary way of knowing is one thing, but the kind of knowing that we understand as wisdom is completely another. The wisdom is more like experiential realization, about gathering facts and information. And so the knowledge is like simply gathering information, no more facts, more information, more set of data, becoming, becoming knowledgeable about, many facts. And that is like knowledge. That knowledge can be collected, knowledge can be gathered, and even knowledge can be forgotten too. But wisdom is not like that. Wisdom is something, it's not simply collecting information, it's collecting facts. It's more like observing and then realizing it internally. So knowledge, we get knowledge about external things, but wisdom is more internal. And knowledge can fill our mind. The more facts we know, the more a set of data we become familiar with, and our mind can be filled. So knowledge can fill our mind. But what the wisdom does is not really filling our mind. Is what the wisdom arises by, clearing the mind. So there's an important difference here. And so what usually the normal way of knowing, more we gather information, more we know more facts. Without knowing, actually, so we can also create certain unwholesome tendencies in us due to our knowledge. Because once we know more facts, more information, we can think about ourselves as knowledgeable person. And then, when you become knowledgeable, you develop certain kind of power, you develop certain kind of influence on others. And then if we are not mindful enough, and our knowledge can create, pride in us, and arrogance in us, and then can lead to all kind of other unwholesome activities. So knowledge can actually create us problems. Knowledge can actually create us suffering. But wisdom does not create us suffering. Wisdom actually liberates us, because it's more like internal knowing realization. It's just like it's simply observing the very process of sensory process, observing exactly how we get to know things, and realize that how much of the things that we experience are reflection. And then and do not try to simply believe as you see it. Do not simply like try to think that there are fixed things outside there. So main element of wisdom is knowing this conditional nature of everything that we encounter. Knowledge seeks for certainty. all the sciences and all systems of knowledge that we have today, and the main goal of seeking knowledge is to develop, to have a certain knowledge. So knowledge seeks for certainty, but the wisdom is completely different, or panya, or the wisdom, actually is not looking for certainty. The panya is actually realization of uncertainty. Knowledge, like simple way of knowing, knowledge or jnana we can call it, try to establish certainty of things, or try to find patterns and certainty, and somehow try to find a certainty that we can rely on. But panya, wisdom, is simply realizing the uncertainty of everything and being okay with that. It's a big difference there. So if we can really pay attention to that aspect of it, realizing the uncertainty and being okay with that, rather than try to gather knowledge to find certainty. So that is a big difference between knowing and like simple way of knowing and panya, the wisdom. And you, in the simple way of knowing, has these elements of like seeing things as solid things, and seeing things as something that can bring us happiness, and seeing things as something that we can own. So we can call it like very opposite to the three characteristic of reality. So in knowledge, we see things as permanent, like Nietzsche. We see things as bringing happiness, sukha. We see things as something that we can own. We can claim ownership, like atta. But wisdom is actually realizing, internally realizing, that actually everything that exists does not is existing because of the support of so many other conditions. So everything that exists has only a temporary existence, only a conditional existence. So there are not solid things over there. There are no solid things at all in a way. There's only processes. The things are appearing in a particular time based on the gathering of certain conditions, and then when those conditions are absent, those whatever we see things as solid is not stay there. So wisdom is actually realizing the impermanence or uncertainty, this fluctual nature of everything, the conditional nature of everything, and also realizing that those things cannot be based, cannot be used, cannot be reliable. They are not reliable for true happiness, and nothing can be owned. We cannot make anything our own. So anatta. So the three elements of wisdom is to realize the anicca, the uncertainty, the changing conditional nature of everything, and realizing the dukkha, that every conditional things cannot fully satisfy us. And then anatta, any conditional things cannot be make our own. Like we cannot own anything. So deeply understanding these three elements of existence, like impermanence and unsatisfactory nature, and non-self, or maybe not being able to claim ownership, and seeing the world in this way is called panya and wisdom. Of course, we cannot develop that kind of penetrative realization at once. And of course, Buddha has given us guidelines how we can actually gradually develop this kind of wisdom in us. So gradually develop this wisdom by gradual practice. And Buddha has given four factors that can help us to develop this kind of wisdom. Of course, we are all in the in normal way of knowing most of the time, and in order to function in the world, we have to believe in the world outside there, at least temporarily. But when we want to develop deeper wisdom, to come to realize deeper reality, we need to slowly transform ourselves from normal way of knowing, normal knowledge, to wisdom, panya way of knowing. And there are four factors that can help us to do that. And Buddha said that these four factors can help us to do that. So number one is called listening to the Dhamma. No, actually, sorry, that's number two. Number one is associating associating a spiritual teacher or associating other spiritual practitioners. For us to move from this blindness in a normal way of knowing to wisdom, we need a spiritual teacher. Of course, Buddha is our teacher par excellence, definitely, but there can also be other teachers who will, who will follow the teachings of the Buddha. So we need to find spiritual teachers and spiritual friends. That is first factor that can help us to move towards this wisdom. Having spiritual teachers and having spiritual friends. Sappurisa Sansava or Kalyana Mittata. Factor number two is actually listening to the teachings of the Buddha. Listening to the teachings of the Buddha. That means, like this, reading the Buddha's discourses and reading the teachings of the Buddha and reading and listening to the explanation of this very process of, sensory experience. Of course, by listening, we develop knowledge, definitely. So knowledge is helpful for wisdom, but knowledge is not wisdom. So, like knowledge or jnana or dhanuma is helpful to have panya, but dhanuma or jnana is not the panya. The second element is actually listening to the teachings of the Buddha, maybe gather more knowledge about the teachings of the Buddha, but that is not enough. But that is helpful. That is a good important factor. The third factor is very important factor that is called wise reflection or yoniso manasikara. Always reflecting, uh, comparing the knowledge that we get from listening to the teaching of the Buddha and reflecting those things with related to the experience that we are going through. So wise reflection or reflecting our own experiences. If we had a moment of conflict, soon after that we can reflect to reflect the causal process of that conflict and objectively analyzing, which kind of interpretation, which kind of concepts, which kind of situation that lead to this kind of conflict that I'm having right now. If we had a moment of anger or like losing the temper, and afterwards you can reflect that very experience objectively, honestly, and seeing what kind of causes and condition made you to, made you become make you angry, so to speak. So this wise reflection is very important. It's happening inside. It's reflecting one's own experiences with comparison with the knowledge that we get from the teachings from the Buddha, and like analyzing or breaking down our own experiences, breaking down our own emotional agitations, like seeing different causal, part of it. And that's called wise reflection or yoniso manasikara. And usually we call it like analyzing to the origin of that experience. We can, for example, you can have you can have a moment of anger, and after that you can really analyze actually what is this whole process. Experience of anger is the culmination of the process, but there can be, you can analyze backward and try to go to all kind of other situations, other verbal exchanges, other thing that we so you can go to the very very beginning of that whole process. So you can see that maybe although I had this strong anger at the end, if I analyze this whole process backward, you'll be able to find some kind of beginning kind of point that could be a very simple experience of dislike. You have kind of dislike experience. So we didn't notice it, and because of that dislike, that lead to another thing, and that lead to another thing. Then we combine our own concepts, our previous concepts, and then it lead to a strong experience of anger. So making those kind of analysis of one's own experiences is called wise reflection and yoniso manasikara, and that is so important to develop wisdom. Moving from blindness to wisdom. And the last factor is called Dhamma patipatti. That means putting into practice what we have learned. It's experimenting the Dhamma. Like the wise reflection is like reflecting of the moments that we failed, reflecting the moments of suffering, reflecting the moment of conflicts. Like we do it you most of the time backward, after we did it. But Dhamma Dhamma Patipatti, practicing the Dhamma is like experimenting with the Dhamma, because we have learned the teachings of the Buddha and we try to experiment. So when there's a conversation happening, we try to experiment what we have learned. And when, let's say, you are going to a place that you feel more attractive, I mean, there are certain things that you may usually you tend to attach to. And if you go to a certain place, you really have to have that. You have that kind of strong desire to go to eat certain things. You have certain desire to like buy certain things. There are certain urges coming for you to like really buy. So you can really uh, put the Dhamma into practice and experiment with this practice. That okay, I'm going to go there, but I'm going to observe my mind and see. Let's see whether I'll be victimized. I'll become a victim to my own urges, or can I really see my own urges and then overcome that? So experimenting with the Dhamma and putting the Dhamma into practice whenever possible with our own life experiences, we call it Dhammanu Dhamma Patipatti. So wisdom is something that arises through practice. The more we practice it, more we try to utilize these things, the more the deeper wisdom we develop. So remember these 4 factors that can help us to develop wisdom. Association of a spiritual teacher or spiritual friends, and listening to the teachings of the Buddha, and then wise reflection, Yoniso Manasikara, and then putting the Dhamma into practice, experimenting with the Dhamma, Dhamma Dhamma Patipatti. These 4 things can help us to move beyond of our blindness. So we all experience the world just like that king experienced the gem. He thinks that there's a gem in the pond. That is how we experience the world. Remember that image. But the real gem is not there. And also in that case, actually, what is reflected was actually the real gem outside, the real gem which was in the bird nest. So in that case, the water simply reflect what is actually there. But in our own experiences, what is reflected in us actually even not the real thing there. If real things is reflecting through our senses, we should be okay. But what we really experience is not the reflection of the real thing over there. We discussed that we experience the world with the process of selection and also with the influence of the process of projection. Therefore, when we attach to things, we attach not to the things that do not really exist outside there. We attach the things that we construct with our own categories, with our own process of selection. And when we dislike certain things, when we resent certain things, we resent things which do not really exist outside there. Because those things that we resent, we dislike, are the things that we created with our own projections and our own process of selection. Of course, there are rudimentary elements, basic elements that made us that dislike thing appear. But what we really dislike is not actual thing over there, what we construct. When you deeply realize that actually the wisdom can liberate us. Wisdom can liberate us from our hatred, liberate us from our attachment. It can really makes us free. This is a liberating realization. So that is the kind of wisdom, panya, that we need to develop in our practice. I hope that today is a very important day that we can become more familiar with these practices and to appreciate the Buddha more, appreciate the Lord Buddha more, and how fortunate the Buddha has somehow break the shell of that egg and realize this truth that all living beings are under the prey of this shell of ignorance. And all are in this matrix without knowing that they are in a trap. But the Buddha has somehow come out from that shell of ignorance and help us to understand that and help us to develop panya, penetrative wisdom, There's an ordinary way of knowing things, but we can gradually transform that knowing to a more deeper, more penetrative way of knowing things, simply examining our process of experience. So keep on associating a spiritual teacher. Of course, the Buddha is the spiritual teacher par excellence. We can simply, be close to the Buddha as much as we can, and then listen to the teachings of the Buddha, and have other spiritual teachers around you, have other spiritual friends around you, and then keep on reflecting your own experiences, particularly the experience that gave you so much of suffering. Those are very really good moments you can examine and investigate, and then you can put the teaching into practice and keep experimenting the teaching of the Buddha. In that way, we can gradually move from normal way of knowing, from the basic blind is having, to a deeper realization that can liberate us from so much of suffering, so much of pain in us and many living beings. Let us wish that may all living beings have the access to the teachings of the Buddha. May all living beings who are victims of basic blindness be able to realize this, and then gradually develop their deep understanding, develop their mind to come out from this blindness and be free. Thank you. Okay, now actually we can start our discussion. So you can actually open your microphones in your, if you are joining us through Zoom, you can unmute your microphone if you have a question. So we have 30 minutes for our discussion. So please feel free to ask questions if you have. So please feel free to ask questions, clarify whatever you want to know, and please don't be shy. Your question can benefit so many others too. So our devotees from Chicago, yeah, please feel free to open your mics and ask questions if you have. Okay, right now we have one question. Voice. Okay.
There is two questions for me.
Okay.
You said when you achieve the wisdom, you need to learn that, right? So if you learn, you need to have your knowledge. So knowledge need to be helpful, right? So that is like, if you don't have the knowledge,
Yes.
how you can achieve the wisdom of Panya?
Yeah.
That is my first question.
Yeah.
The second question is, when you say like selection and projection, are you talking about sankhara, or I just need to know what
Okay.
is that?
Okay. Yeah. Okay, I think the first one, I think Prabhupada is very correct. I was showing the difference between knowledge and wisdom, because knowledge can blind us, and knowledge can make us, knowledge can constrict us, knowledge can fill our mind, but the wisdom can, liberates us. Yeah, but as you mentioned, a knowledge of the teachings of the Buddha is very important to have wisdom. Like, so because in the beginning we will not be able to overcome this blindness at once. So that is why in the four factor, the second factor, which is Dhamma Savana, or the listening to the teachings of the Buddha, is important, because when you listen, you develop knowledge, definitely, but you develop knowledge about the teachings of the Buddha. So you develop knowledge about the map. You develop knowledge about the realization of other enlightened disciples and enlightened beings. So knowledge is helpful, definitely. So the guidance is that don't stop in the knowledge, because although we learn the teachings of the Buddha through listening, it's only partial. We are again create conceptual knowledge. When you listen, it's important, but what we develop is conceptual knowledge, not the realization. But as you mentioned, conceptual knowledge is a factor that can lead us to wisdom, realization, or panya. Yeah, that is really correct. So of course there's a big difference between knowledge and wisdom, but we should not simply ridicule knowledge, but knowledge knowledge of the teachings of the Buddha is the key factor to develop panya or eventual wisdom. And the second question you asked about, what I mean by selection and projection actually. So what you mean by projection is actually there is sanya, and all kind of all kind of things we can call it actually nama. What you call nams, like any kind of mental images that we are projecting to the experience we are getting. So sankhara is more of our reaction to things. It's more like a behavioral aspect. Sankhara is our reaction to the world, but sanya is our cognitive projection that we are doing. So that is the sanya also can relate to our selection also. There's a big difference between sanya and panya, right? So the sanya is ordinary way of knowing things, and panya is like going beyond that and penetrating and then and having experiential direct experiential knowledge realization. Yes, thank you. Yeah, Bante. So yeah, please feel free to ask any other question.
Bante, I have one. It's not a question, it might be clarifying. In speaking about the difference between knowledge and wisdom, I think a lot of it rests with our expectations. It's okay for us to expect certainty with knowledge. That's what we expect, and that's good. But so often we also expect certainty with wisdom, and that's where we get into a conflict, because as you pointed out earlier, it's accepting the uncertainty that creates the wisdom, and that's difficult for many of us, I think.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Yes, Opeka. I think every living being, we are looking for certain kind of certainty to rely on, because we feel like we cannot function without any kind of permanency. So with knowledge, we try to find certain kind of certainty. But I think because also we also need to control things, because when you have some knowledge of certainty, we can also control it. But that is how ordinarily we will we function in the world. But I think that maybe we get kind of some sense of stability and certainty and some kind of control based on that. But that's not going to be permanent. That's going to shatter away anytime. All the certainties we develop through our knowledge is temporary. And of course, this is a period that we are experiencing it very clearly. But yeah, as you mentioned, wisdom, like panya, is more like realizing the uncertainty and then being okay with that. It's just like when we raft, when you rafting in a river, and if you always want to like fight against the waves, and maybe we will able to be successful a little bit, and like try to find and win against. But if you learn how to move through the waves, like accepting the uncertainty of the river, and then instead of
you become the part of the wave.
Yes, you become the part of the, rather than like
Especially when you are surfing, I have seen that people become a wave instead of going against the wave.
Yeah. So yeah,
because the nature is always changing. Then we usually think that certainty in the nature.
Yeah.
But instead of thinking in that way, we accept this uncertainty, and we just flow with the
nature.
Flow with the nature.
Yeah, that is easier. I mean, if you learn how to do that,
if you know that, and if you are able to transform yourself, it is easy. Otherwise, it is suffering.
Yes.
Full of suffering. We suffer a lot. Now we are trying to go back to 2019, certain day before the Corona. We are trying to go back. We are struggling for.
Yeah.
But actually, if you are able to accept new development, and if you are able to go through this situation, then you become smart and you have wisdom and you survive there.
There, yes. Yeah. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Pekka, for that comment. Yes. Yeah. So anybody else like to make a comment or ask a question? How about, devotees from Chicago? Do you like to ask a question? So I was telling Bante, yes. Anybody? No, yeah. I was telling Bante, how
And I think Madhukka Mahatya is trying.
is there a question? So I get.
So I answer.
Terun Sarnai Mahatya.
Yeah, so my question is about so once you gain the knowledge, when it comes to the wisdom, is it something like the effortless that that would automatically come inside from us? So once you kind of keep practicing it, the knowledge, and you kind of keep analyzing and keep thinking about the knowledge that we gain about something, and then after that maybe that is related to the example that Punahamdro just gave. So is it my question mainly is it should it be like just a practice after that, so that it would be effortless when we experience the same thing for the next time?
Yes, I think you are correct in a way, because what we have right now is the basic blindness and confusion. So, once you gradually remove them, with our practice, and then whatever appear, we can directly experience, and then we will not project. Remember, we are doing our projection and selection. So wisdom is not really collecting more information. Wisdom is like clarifying, clearing the already cluttered concepts we have right here. And we are not really going to throw them away, but we know that we are looking at the world through these concepts. We don't really attach to them. So then it becomes more spontaneous. Yeah, we can call it spontaneous realization. Whenever we encounter an experience, because we don't really project. Although we project, we know that we are projecting. We don't take things as we perceive it. So we know how to relate to them, and then we can penetrate through those categories. So once you develop that, it becomes natural. Definitely, it becomes spontaneous. But it's a gradual process to go there.
But Bante,
Yes.
it's not sequential. We're going up and down that spectrum of those four, or at least the first three of the four items: the spiritual friends, the studying, and the reflection, all happening at the same time. Where sometimes it's the Dhamma, and then the reflection, and then we go back to the spiritual friends, and then it's reflection, and then it's the Dhamma, and eventually we end up on the fourth one, which is did I write that down? And that was the
Practicing.
Practicing.
Yeah.
And practicing, and we do all of those four back and forth, up and down, until finally we get to the wisdom.
Exactly, exactly. No, exactly. Those four factors, the four factors together, help us to develop wisdom. And if you only listen the teachings of the Buddha but don't put into practice, there's no wisdom coming up. Yeah. So we need to put all these four factors together, and as you say, like helping each other. The more we practice, more we have inclination to listen, and more we listen, more we have inclination to reflect. So they're helping. The four factors. They are helping each other, and then even the arising of panya is also gradual. It's also gradual. Okay, I think I have. I think I have a question here. The written form. Uh, it is easy to observe raga and dvesha. What about moha? How to trap moha and see through the prajna? So, the question here is that it is easy to observe the desires, attachment that we are having, and also those are okay. Let's say anger, resentment. And question is that how to observe the moha, or like the blindness and confusion. I think in order to observe that is why we need to learn the teachings of the Buddha first, right? So that is not something we can.
And according to the Visuddhimagga and also
Yeah.
some other suttas, what is the moha character?
Yeah.
Lot of thoughts. Is that right?
Yes,
Vitaka.
vitaka,
Yeah.
the confusion.
Confusion.
Yeah. The moha is not lack of knowledge, full of wrong knowledges.
Very good. full of wrong knowledge.
Yeah.
The only thing is that we don't know what is the wrong and what is the right.
Yeah.
That is why we believe the knowledge and we create the knowledge and we try to perceive the knowledge,
Yeah.
and we try to live in the knowledge that we have created. But it is a kind of a struggle.
Yeah.
So that is how the moha developed in us.
And then we proliferate and build up.
Actually, finally, we live in a conceptualized imagination.
Yeah. And then we think that is the world existing. Yeah. I think the best way to overcome moha is have more moments of mindful awareness rather than interpreting, as Bante mentioned, rather than creating more thoughts. But why not we simply spend some moments simply observing what is happening here, and try to let those thoughts simply occur, and we don't feed any of these thoughts and let them subside, and then realize that okay, as long as I have this all interpretation, thoughts, and imagination, that is like confusion, that is more. I thought there is a knowledge, but when you let those things subside by themselves without feeding them, and then you still have bigger awareness, and that's different from moha.
And also, we have to understand what is the difference between the knowledge and the moha. That means the rumination of the mind.
Yeah.
And the creating thoughts in the mind. Because knowledge is a kind of very good
More systematic, right?
forward step
Yeah.
with regard to the
wisdom.
wisdom.
Yes.
But the moha, or the rumination, the creation of the thoughts in the mind, most of the time, for example, think about the doubt, think about the whatever the wrong misunderstanding. Once you have a misunderstanding, all the thoughts get together and come
And feed that
and it feeds, and it becomes bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
And you
and
plug
even
in
doubt.
there.
Doubt's also the same, right?
Same.
When you have a doubt, and
Yeah,
and you gather all the thoughts.
because there are a number of reasons there, number of reasonable points there. So what we can gather them, and we start to believe that we have knowledge, but that is not the knowledge. Knowledge is a progressive frontline, progressive step towards the wisdom.
Yes.
Only problem is the uncertainty there.
Uncertainty. Yeah. Yes.
Would you define moha one more time, please?
You can maybe, if I say simply, it will be confusion. But sometimes we also translate as a delusion.
And
Confused state of the mind.
Okay, thank you.
how you translate, Bante, the word vitak? It will make a little bit more
Vitak could be in a good way
meaningful.
and bad way also, right?
Because the
Thoughts.
vitak, if you are a character with that kind of confusion, and it is bit the Buddha recommended the practice in mindfulness on the breathing,
Yeah.
and that will help you to reduce the unnecessary thoughts in your mind.
Yeah.
Because
Ruminations,
this
right?
ruminations, yeah.
But Vitak can also have other. Vitak can be good also, like.
But to become vitaka good, you have to have another supportive thought. Otherwise, vitaka won't.
You have to be directed.
Yeah.
Vitak, if when we direct the Vitak into a wholesome object continuously,
That's
then
right.
it becomes
Otherwise,
useful.
it becomes a
Otherwise,
confusion.
Vitak is all over, right?
Yeah,
Going all
it's a
over.
confusion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bante, it's Adrian. My video is not working, but can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Good morning, everyone. We've been listening in on YouTube, and I realized I had a question.
Okay.
If you wouldn't mind going way further back into the conversation when you were talking about our tendency through the senses to only see particular things, to select particular things to see, to hear, to basically sense, and ultimately to believe. I'm curious to know, because in my heart that seems to point to where the attachment to delusion begins. But why are we so wired in that way? What is the conditioning within us that causes us to tend to be so selective?
I think so. Maybe we have to blame the evolution for that. Your question that why we are being wired to always select things. I think it's very practical, because if we don't select, we cannot, because so much of information flowing towards us, we cannot fathom all information. So we have to select in order to function as a normal being and make sense of the world. But if we are not aware that we are selecting, we tend to believe that whatever selected thing that we saw is the only thing that exists over there. I think that extra step is a mistake. We have to select, otherwise, so much information coming through our senses, it's not possible for us to fathom, deal with all this plethora of information coming to us. We have to select, but not knowing that we are selecting, and that believing that what exists over there is what I only select and perceive. That is the step that is mistaken. So I think that's for practical reason, right? We cannot.
And to survive, selection is a kind of primary.
Yes, selecting the information through our senses.
But I think we have to be aware of while we are selecting, why we are selecting.
Yes.
And
why we select the one thing over the other. Right?
Yeah.
Yes.
And also what kind of basic underlying attitude do we have to have for the selection? I mean the uncertainty.
Yeah.
We do the selections, of course. Otherwise, you start to think that it is a sin. It's a permanent sin, that the selection. We are not just going beyond the selection. We have the selection, but we have a wisdom to experience the selection. Is that right?
Yes. Know that we are selecting. As Bante mentioned, our selection is not free. We are selecting based on our unconscious tendencies.
That's right.
Right? Yeah. And someone going to a place, and if you have a tendency of finding faults, will be able to see many faults in that place, right? because of that, underlying tendency. So our selection is not free, and realizing that, we are doing
That is why we always encourage ourselves to maintain the
mindfulness. Yeah.
If you are able to maintain the mindfulness in that selection process, that you can find the limit, and you can recognize, okay, otherwise we become the victims of our own set of selections, and then
Yeah.
that is how we live in this world.
Wow.
But with the mindfulness, we can just
Become aware of that.
uh,
And then, of course, for like practices like loving kindness and other meditation, we can develop more wholesome tendencies.
yeah,
And when we select, actually, we will select most wholesome things to see, right?
yeah,
Most
of
wholesome
course,
things to see. So we can change the process of selection. I think the simple answer again, a selection happens because of the practical reason that as single being, we cannot handle all the data coming to our senses.
As Bante mentioned, it might be a long process of our evolution journey,
Emotion, yeah.
but also it has started from our life from the beginning as a
Child.
as a childhood. We have started this journey, and so we are still continuing. And it is okay to somewhat, but always we have to have mindfulness and well awareness on that, and then we can just adjust ourselves and flowing through the
To the water.
and yeah, you become the wave instead of going against
Against
the
the
wave.
wave. That's correct. Yeah. I think that's a good statement to conclude.
But be mindful, otherwise you will think, oh, I by being a Buddhist kind of uh, uh, person who is having a wisdom is become a stupid. It is not a stupid, it's a skill. That's why you become a wave instead of going against the wave. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Welcome. I think that's a good place to stop right now. So remember to become the wave, and then now I think it is time for us to conclude this session. So then we can move to the next part of Buddha Puja. So you can stay over, and so we will continue. So if you have offerings you'd like to make to the Buddha, and you can place them right now in front of your own altar, and we will also place our offerings, and then we will together do the Buddha Puja. And those who would like to follow the chanting, actually you can do that. We have put the links to the chanting book in your chat section. If you are joining us from Zoom, go to your chat section. There's a link. You can click, and then the chanting book will be open. And if you are joining us through YouTube, you can also go to the live chat section, and there you can find the link that you can download the chanting book. So let's join the chanting in 5 minutes. People from Chicago, I'm glad that you joined this Dhamma talk and discussion. I hope that now you can move to the next part of your program. And I thank every one of you for joining, and I wish all of you to have a very wholesome, very fruitful day forward, and may all your other programs be successful, and wish you all very blissful, fruitful Vesak day. Thank you.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Let us dedicate these items to the Buddha. Today we have been spending learning about the wisdom of the Buddha and benefiting from the teachings of the Buddha. So this is the moment we can show our gratitude and show our honor to the Buddha. So we have placed all these items in front of this statue as a way of showing our respect and gratitude. Let us wish that may these candle lights be offered to the Buddha in honor of his great wisdom. And may these incense be offered to the Buddha in honor of his great moral fragrance. And may these flowers be offered to the Buddha in honor of his blossomed compassion. And may this water be offered to the Buddha in honor of his cooling loving kindness. And may these food items be offered to the Buddha in honor of his great generosity. And may we also be inspired by these virtues to follow the path towards the enlightenment. May this act of offering be an act of honor, an act of gratitude towards the Buddha. May we also be able to have same inclination to develop same qualities, and may we all walk towards the enlightenment. With these thoughts in our mind, let us join the Buddha Puja.
If you are following our chanting book, you can turn to page number 8. Let's chant together. Homage to the Buddha. Iti piso bhagava arahang samma sambuddho vidyacharana sampanno sugato lokavidu anuttaro purisa dhamma sarati satta deva manussanang buddho bhagavati. Homage to the Dhamma. Swakhato bhagavata dhammo sanditiko akaliko ehi pansiko opanaiko pancatang veditabbo Vinyuhiti. Homage to the Sangha. Supatipanno bhagavato savaka sangho Ujo patipanno bhagavato savaka sangho Nyaya patipanno bhagavato savaka sangho Samiji patipanno bhagavato savaka sangho Yadidang cattari purisa yugani Ante purisa punggala Ese bhagavato savaka sangho Ahuniyo pa දක්ඛිනේයෝ අංජලි කරණීයෝ අනුත්තරං පුඤ්ඤක් කෙත්තං ලංසාති. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Next page. Offerings. Offering of light. Ganesarappaditene dipene tamadangsina tilokadipang sambuddhang pujayami tamunudang. Offering of incense. Gandha sambhare yuttene dupenahang sugandhina pujaye pujaniyang tang puja bhajana muttamang. Offering of flowers. Vanna gandhe gunopetang etang kusuma santating pujayami munindanse siripada saroruhi pujemi buddhang kusumene mene punyene metene labami mokkang pumpang nilayati athaidang mi kayo tatayati vinasa bhavang. Offering of water. Adivasetuno bhante paniyang parikampitang anukampang upadaye patiganhatu uttama. Offering of food. Adivasetuno bhante bhojanang parikampitang anukampang upadaye patiganhatu uttama. Worship of shrines. Vandami cetiyang sabbang sabbethani supatikintitang saririka dhatu mahabodhing buddha rupang sakalang sada. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Okay, now we can have our lunch break now. So remember your precepts. So you can have a very mindful eating today. So try to, as I mentioned in the morning, And let's try to prepare our meal without making much sounds today. Sometimes we simply try to speak as much as possible, but I think we can make things happen without really talking very much. So let us try to help each other to arrange your meal without much talking. Let's try to minimize as much as you can. Simply help each other to prepare the meal. And once you prepare the meal, and try to bring everything that you don't have to work back, and try to bring everything to the table. And before you eat, make a contemplation. Take a moment to be grateful to whatever you have in front of you. There are so many people have put so much of hard work to produce this food. People have worked so hard to transport this food to different places. And there are so many other beings, animals, and so many beings has contributed to this food. And there are people who work hard to earn money to buy this food for you. So think about that and feel grateful and have a moment of gratitude before you eat. Say that in your mind, I'm grateful to everyone who produced this food for me, who prepared this food for me. Someone has to cook that food for us. We're cooking is not a simple thing. Someone has to put so much of care and love to cook. So be grateful to person who cooked the food and have that gratitude, and then make a determination. I'm going to eat this food as mindfully as I can. I'm not going to talk while I'm eating. So today we are going to have a special time of eating, very mindful eating. Try to eat very slowly. We have enough time, enough break time. So take one bite. I remember, Bante, our Bante Ji, Bante Gururatana, has advised us, when you have one mouthful of food, put your forks and spoons away, put your hands away, and try to finish that mouthful, completely chewing and swallowing before you prepare the next one. Usually what happens is that when you put the food into the mouth, and before it finish, we already start to prepare other thing, and even without swallowing it, we put another one to our mouth. That is how we eat unmindfully. But today we will take our time. After a moment of gratitude, we make a determination, I'm going to eat this food with mindfulness, and we try to eat slowly, and we eat one bite, and we finish that bite completely. We chew it as much as we can to, like that can help us our digestion. So, and do it and then swallow it and take the next one, and do it very mindfully, and be aware of all the sensation happening in your mouth, and even be aware of all this, craving and everything that's occurring in your mind, even like dislike to certain things, taste. So be aware of them. Don't simply follow them, but be aware of all these emotions and thoughts arising, and try to eat mindfully in that way. Let us try to eat without talking as much as possible, and finish the eating without talking. We can help each other. We can serve each other, but without talking. Let's try to do that. And so then we can have a short break. We are meeting again at 12:30. At 12:30, please come in front of your computer, and we will start with the next program. And I really hope that may you all have a very mindful meal and very joyful meet together. Thank you. And we will have our lunch now.
They don't